It can be difficult to cut items out of a photo that are transparent, like glass or water, and even with the keying tools in After Effects, we can't always get the perfect settings. So we'll key this image twice, in two different layers in After Effects, then blend them together in Photoshop using layer masks. So in this first part, we'll create two keyed versions of this photo in After Effects. So inside of After Effects, we'll start with a blank untitled project. Then let's go back to the exercise files, and we're going to go into folder 6 inside of the chapter 1 folder in the exercise files. Inside that folder, you'll find a file called almonds.jpg, so let's import that into After Effects to get started. And so once you have the JPEG file imported, you can see it in the project panel. To create a composition, let's click and drag on this and drop it into the composition area. This will give us a composition that will match the size of the JPEG file, which is 6,000 pixels by 4,000 pixels. Then let's go over to the effects and presets. Up here in the search area, let's type in the word key. We're looking for key light. Then click on the key light effect and let's drag and drop it on top of the JPEG file. Now inside of our effect controls, just like we did in the last video with the coffee beans, let's come in here and click on the eyedropper next to the screen color swatch. With the eyedropper selected, let's come in here and pick the most common color green inside of here, which is going to be around this area here. So we'll click one time and now we'll have our key applied. Now the gray we're seeing is the background color of the composition. Let's come up here to the composition menu. Let's come down and change this. Let's go to composition settings. And down here for the background color, let's click on the swatch and let's make this a really dark gray. Somewhere around right here. Let's click OK here and here. And so now with this dark gray, we can see some of the brighter areas of that green background. So what we're going to do is create two versions, as I mentioned before. In one version, we're going to overkey this image to get some of our detail. And in the second version, we're going to underkey the image, and then we'll blend the two together. So for this one, let's set up the overkeying. So let's come back over to the effect controls. Let's come down to screen gain, and let's increase this. Let's bring this up to about 155. So bring this to about right here. Now we can see on the screen, all of the hotspots in the background are dropping out, but we're also losing a lot of detail around the almonds down here on the ground, the shadows, as well as a lot of the highlights and shadows in the glass bowl. Next, let's come over here to screen balance. This is set to 50 by default. Let's come in here and just scrub this down to about 45. Now this controls the sort of tinting of the background color as it reflects onto items on the screen. Now to test this, let's come up to the composition window again. Let's come down to composition settings. I'm going to move this out of the way a little bit. I'll click on the background color swatch. I'll move this out of the way. And then if we come in here and pick a couple of different colors, we can see if that background color is bleeding into our original image. So I'll choose a violet color here. Then maybe change this to blue, maybe into yellows and reds. And again, I'm really looking at how much of this background color gets bled into all of these images. So orange isn't a good color because that's too close to the almond color itself. So let's come back up here into the violets. So I'm going to choose sort of a medium violet color here. Let's click OK. We'll click OK again. Now since we're not seeing the background color bleeding onto the main image, we've got a pretty good key set. Again, this is too high of a key, but we want to create two of these so we can merge them together. Now incidentally, we did shoot this against some colored cardboard that we got from a craft store. If you followed along in the previous video where we did the coffee beans, that was actually shot against some fabric. So in this particular case, the colored cardboard actually gave us a much cleaner key. And so now that we have our first key created, let's come down to the timeline panel. Let's select the almonds.jpg layer. On the Mac, we'll hit Command D. On Windows, hit Control D. This will duplicate this layer. Let's hide the bottom layer. And for the top layer, let's come in here and change some of our key settings. So over here in the effect controls, let's come in here. Let's bring this down below 100. Let's set this down to 94. This is going to give us a lot more noise, and we're going to be left with some of the keying information out here on the left, some of the hotspots in the background. However, this is also going to give us some of the details in the glass and a lot more of the shadows around the bowl and the almonds. And actually looking at this, let's come down here and change this from 94 down to 90. So maybe down to about right here. And for the screen balance, let's bring this down to about 40. So now that we have two different layers of the same JPEG file with different keying options, let's come up to the composition menu, First, make sure that you're in full screen resolution in the comp window. So from the composition menu, let's come down to Save Frame As. Let's choose Photoshop Layers. Then on the desktop, we'll name this almonds.psd, and then we'll hit Save. Now you can also save the After Effects project as well by going up to the File menu, coming down and choosing Save. And then on the desktop, we'll name this almonds.aep, which stands for After Effects project. And now if I take a look on the desktop, I'll see both the Photoshop file and the After Effects file. So let's come over here and let's double click on the Photoshop file. And once this file opens, we'll see the two layers in Photoshop that we got from After Effects. And at this point, we're ready to continue with the next lesson and combine these two images using a layer mask.